Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the M&J podcast, where we give you insights on how to build your business to become a timeless business. And today I'm joined by Fadzi. Fadzi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Golden.
How has been your June when it comes to sales?
Well, it was okay. I can't complain, but you know Zimbabwe, how it is. You have to be aggressive for you to make it. So we were doing our best.
I know you will do best, and I hope in July it will be multiplied.
Yes, very much.
All right. So today we want to talk about a subject that bothers most of the entrepreneurs out there. We want to talk about tax.
Yes.
I understand you are one of the experts when it comes to tax. So help me understand, why is tax management such a headache to most of the SMEs in Zimbabwe?
Okay. So basically, I think most of the SMEs are scared of Zimra. Just the thought of Zimra, they are scared. And most of them are now fear to engage with Zimra. That's the major challenge. And then now, once they are registered, it comes back to the record keeping. Most of our SMEs do not have proper record keeping. You can find that invoices are misplaced. They don't even record their expenses. At the end of the day, they don't even know the profits that they have made. So it ends up becoming too much of a challenge for them to calculate probably their income tax, probably the pay as you earn for the salaries. So it boils back to the fear of Zimra and failing to keep records.
All right. Let's say maybe someone watching us right now, they're already operating a business. At what point are they eligible, or at what point should they register for VAT?
Okay. So for VAT, there's a certain threshold that you have to reach in regards to your sales. So this threshold is actually 25,000 in a year.
Right.
So the 25,000 is calculated cumulatively, meaning that in a cumulative period that totals to 12 months or a year, your sales should either be equal to 25,000 or exceeding 25,000. However, if your sales are not exceeding 25,000, you do what we call voluntary registration. So basically, by voluntary registration, all you need to do is to apply to Zimra that you are estimating that your sales are going to be reaching the threshold. Probably you provide a contract that you are expecting to get, or just by watching your trend in the past months, you see that in a year, I'm actually going to surpass the 25,000. Therefore, you're allowed to register voluntarily. And once you apply, Zimra actually approves and you're VAT registered.
Oh, such an easy process.
Yes, it's actually very easy.
All right. But there's always that one thing that scares most of the entrepreneurs. We've had a lot of people saying, you will see Zimra, they'll come for an audit. But most of us, we don't really know what happens on a Zimra audit. Maybe if you can shed more light on that.
Okay. So basically, when Zimra comes for an audit, they don't just come randomly. Sometimes they do what they call compliance checks. Before you get to an audit, they start with compliance checks. So for compliance checks, they're just checking how compliant you've been, how you've been calculating your returns, how you've been submitting, whether you were meeting the deadlines, and how you've been making the payments as well. And then when it's now time for an audit, Zimra actually requests for in-depth information about the organization. It could be your sales schedules, it could be your invoices, it could be your financial statements over the period that they are auditing, because they've got a certain period. It can be a year, it can be 2 years, it can be 2 months. It depends with the type of the audit. So they ask from your invoices, your expenses, your asset register, your lease agreements, basically everything that feeds into your financial statements. So all you need to do is, when they ask, you have everything aligned such that you don't have any discrepancies and you also don't miss any documents.
All right. Now, when Zimra are doing their audits, can I represent myself as a business, or I would need a consultant to represent me?
Okay. Technically, you can represent yourself probably as the public officer or the business owner. However, what I would advise is, if you don't have in-depth knowledge in regards to taxes, it will be ideal for you to engage someone who is well-versed in that area, a tax consultant for that matter. And another thing that you also need to check is, if you, the owner of the business, try to represent yourself, there are too many emotions involved. You are too much attached to the business, such that you can even say out the wrong things, or you can even present the wrong things to Zimra. So engaging a tax consultant is actually a way to go. Why? Because the tax consultant basically knows the information that they're supposed to align. They also know how to answer certain questions when Zimra is asking, because if you're asked as the owner, you may feel targeted and you may feel like they are trying to come and get you. But if I'm a tax consultant, I'm independent, I'm not attached to the business, I know exactly how to answer, the art of answering their type of questions. So engaging a tax consultant is actually the way to go, because they know how to align the information as well as to answer the Zimra people.
Wow, insightful. So maybe let's say I want to be compliant. I'm a business. I want to be compliant with Zimbra. What are some of the tax plans that I can make throughout the year?
Okay. So for starters, we've got different types of taxes that you'll be registered for. Let's say you've got your pay as you earn, you've got your income tax. You need to check, for pay as you earn, you need to check how you're going to be structuring the salaries of your employees, how you're going to be structuring the benefits of your employees. And then for income tax now, you need to start from the QPDs, because what happens with most of the SMEs or most of the business people, when they're calculating QPDs, they actually forget that QPDs are just estimates. And then they calculate using the actual information, making them estimate wrong figures. So it actually starts from how you're going to be estimating your QPDs, as well as how you're going to be acquiring your assets. Like, if you're buying assets in the company name, they actually help to reduce your tax liability for income tax. So it comes back to how you're going to be acquiring your properties, acquiring your assets, how you're also going to be computing even the income tax itself. So you should also be cognizant of certain things that are allowed when you're calculating probably for income tax. We are looking at your SIA, we are looking at your capital gains, we're probably looking for providing for doubtful debts. So all along as you get into the year, you should be recording all those things accurately, such that when you now get to the actual calculations, you take into consideration all of that information to reduce the tax liability.
All right. Now, let's say most of the entrepreneurs out there, they use the manual way of recording books. With their accounts, you see them writing in journals.
Yes.
I believe, are there any other systems or tools that they can use for them to be tax compliant?
Yeah, there are actually many systems that they can get to use, because you find that when you're using your counter books, it's very difficult for you to not have information from prior years, because when it comes to taxes, you actually need to keep information for as many years as you can. So if you're using counter books, it becomes difficult. There are actually a number of softwares that you can use. We've got QuickBooks, we've got Pastel, but nowadays I would actually recommend for you to have cloud-based software. Let's take, for example, the nice ERP solutions like Odoo. So if you have a cloud-based software, you can access it from wherever you are. Meaning, if you incur an expense, probably you've gone in VigForce, you incur a business expense, you can easily log in from there remotely. So if you have a cloud-based software, it's easy for you to do your record keeping. And another thing about softwares is they calculate your financials easily. You don't need to sit down and think what goes to the debit, what goes to the credit. The double entry is done by the software itself, so it becomes easy. So I would recommend that SMEs actually get to invest in cloud softwares, such that whatever recording they do, whatever calculations they do, they become easy to do.
All right. Now, over the past 10 years of building timeless businesses, I understand you have dealt with a lot of SMEs.
Yes.
Any examples of how you've helped maybe one in particular with taxes?
Yes, we actually had a certain individual or business person, if I may say. They got hit by Zimra. Right. For starters, Zimra does site visits. So Zimra actually did their site visit. They got to the premises, and then they found the owner there. Somehow the owner said the wrong things, which then didn't align with the returns that were being submitted prior by the tax consultant. So from the wrong things that the business person had said, it actually triggered an audit, because they now wanted to know everything in depth. So from the audit now, the business person thought everything is okay, everything is aligned. He tried to represent himself again. And then he made another mistake of saying the wrong things and also presenting wrong documents. And the tax liability that they actually calculated was estimated to $28,000 in total that he was supposed to pay. So it's only at a later stage that he then decided to engage us for tax representation, because he wanted us to reduce the tax liability. It was too late, but we knew how best we could chip in. So we chipped in, we engaged the Zimra officials, and then we started aligning the documents now. It turned out that the 28,000 was actually based on estimates that were made not with actual information because he had failed to align. So we started realigning the documents, submitting the documents for the audit, and the tax liability was actually reduced from 28,000 to 12,500. So you actually see that it was reduced by more than 50%, which is why I actually urge SMEs to engage experts when it comes to tax issues, because they are very sensitive. Businesses can actually go down if you don't calculate your taxes well. So I'm actually proud that I actually saved much of his money.
At least the business is still running, right?
Yes, sure, it is. And he now trusts us with almost everything about his taxes.
Wow. All right. But there might be someone watching us right now. They've been running a small business informally, and with the advice that you've been giving them, the insights, they now want to get compliant. What's your advice to that person?
Okay. So for starters, by law, every company that is incorporated in Zimbabwe is expected to register for tax in the first 30 days of incorporation. After incorporation, suppose you haven't started your operations, because some people may say, I can't register for tax because I haven't started operations. Zimra actually allows you to submit new returns, which are what we call zero returns. So you submit your zero returns. When you start your operations now, you then start submitting the proper returns. We've got different taxes that you get to subscribe initially. Pay as you earn, which is your tax on your salaries, or the salaries or remuneration of your employees. And then income tax, which is basically tax on your profits. So for you to be compliant, you just need to make sure that, for starters, you register for the tax, you notify Zimra that you are now there, you are now incorporated. And then from there, you start calculating your taxes efficiently and professionally, and then submitting to Zimra on time, because Zimra is now very strict in regards to submitting due dates as well as payments for the taxes. So you need to make sure that the returns are calculated properly, they're submitted on time, as well as the payments are also made on time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that I have no more things to add on that. Such a powerful presentation you put there.
Thank you so much.
That just leads me to thank you, and hopefully I'll bring you again on one of these episodes so that you can shed more light on issues that are faced by entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe.
All right. Yeah. It will be a pleasure for me to come back again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. This has been the M&J podcast. Now remember, before we go, just like, subscribe, and share this video with one of the entrepreneurs that you know that might be helpful with this information. See you on the next podcast.